All right, and we are back here on the GSMC Football Podcast. And for the second part of the show, we are going to continue our schedule breakdowns. And today we will be talking about the Houston Texans schedule. So let's get into that. So we got to change a couple things here, of course. So the Texans, they went 10-7 last season, exceeded expectations, won the AFC South, and then won a playoff game against the Cleveland Browns. Did lose to the Ravens in the divisional round, but this year expectations are higher. I expect this team to be very good in 2024. Right now, look at them as the favorites to win the AFC South once again. So let's go over their schedule here. They start off with the Colts. Now, the Texans, they ended the Colts season last year, and that was with Gardner Minshew at quarterback. He did a nice job filling in for Anthony Richardson when he went down earlier in the season. So we get Anthony Richardson against C.J.Stroud right off the bat. And, I think this is going to be a tough game for the Texans. I think the Colts are going to be a good team. I feel like this game could definitely go either way. And we get to see, how Stephon Diggs is with the Texans. Of course, they also brought in Joe Mixon as well. Danielle Hunter on the defensive side of the ball. So I don't know. I feel like I could see this. Like I said, I could see this game going either way. But I'll say the Texans get the win here. I'm gonna say the Colts and the Texans, they do split. So I'm gonna say the Colts end up winning the game here. To start out, but like I said, could go either way. Then in week 2, this is an exciting game. This is actually the Hall of Fame game, Bears and the Texans, but now we get it on Sunday night here in week 2. Bears got their rookie quarterback, Caleb Williams. Another team, love the moves that they made this offseason. I think this team can definitely compete for a playoff spot. But I think because the Texans are at home, I like the Texans in this spot. So I'm going to say they win and they get back on track and even it out at 1-1. Then they take on a Vikings team. Now, in the production meeting, because I did go over the Vikings schedule, but I had to remind myself the kind of schedule that they have. So they play the Giants week 1, but after that they play the Texans, the 49ers. They have like a gauntlet of a schedule after the Giants from like week 2 to week 6. So they could start off 0-6 to start the season. And it's funny because the game against the Giants is a game I actually think the Giants can win. So, but yeah, that was just something that we talked about yesterday. But here, yeah, I like the Texans in this spot. I think they got the better quarterback. Depending on whether it's Sam Darnold or J.J. McCarthy, it doesn't matter. I think the Texans should get the win here. And also, it's a Danielle Hunter coming home party. So, and then on the other side, you got Jonathan Grenard on the Vikings. So those two guys will be going at it against their former teams. But, yeah, I like the Texans in that spot. Then we got the Jaguars. Now, the Texans early on in the season, they won by a few scores in Jacksonville, and then the Jags, they won in Houston. At that point, I thought they were 8-3, I believe 8-3, 8-4. I thought at that point, the division was wrapped up, but that was not the case because then the Jaguars, they went in a free fall, and the Texans got hot, made the playoffs, so the Jags are looking to redeem themselves. And I feel like this is... I think the Jags could split with the Texans. I'm not going to sit here and say that there's going to be a sweep. I think there's going to be another split here. I'm going to say the Texans do get the win here. So I'll give them the win. But like I said, I think I'm going to say they split with the Jags as well. Then they take on the Bills. Stephon Diggs going up against his former team. Got Josh Allen coming in. I think this has a potential to be a really good game. I think, again, with the Texans being at home, I lean more towards them. Because I also do have some question marks with the Bills' receiving core, even though I think they're going to be able to work it out because they have Josh Allen. And, I think they're going to lean on James Cook as well. But, again, I'm going to lean towards the Texans. I'm going to say the Texans get the win here. Then in week 6, they take on the Patriots. And the Patriots have a good defense still. It's just the offense is where my concerns kind of lie. So, I'm going to lean towards taking the Texans here. Because, again, if you remember, now it's a new year, but the Texans did lose to the Panthers last year. Now, that's why I brought up the fact that the Patriots have a good defense. Like, maybe the Patriots, force some turnovers. C.J.Stroud has an off game. Maybe they pull off an upset. But I don't think that's going to happen. I think the Texans are going to get the win here as well. Then they take on the Packers. And I think I did have them beating the Packers when I did the Packers schedule, but this game could go either way. And I have a problem with this game because it's at 1 o'clock Eastern time. It's an early window game. This game should be moved to the afternoon or flexed into Sunday night. And I don't know. I'm not a big expert on the flexing rules when it comes to the TV networks. So I don't know if that applies with this week. But yeah, this game should be a later window. So I don't know why, but maybe they end up moving it. Who knows? I think I did say the Texans would upset the Packers. Well, if you want to call it an upset, but the Texans would beat the Packers in Lambeau. So, and then I said they would split with the Colts. So I'd give the Texans the win there. The Jets, I mean, that one could go either way. I would give the. I forget if I said the Jets would beat them or not, because the Jets did win last year when they had Zach Wilson. So that's another game that I think could go either way if the Jets are clicking on all cylinders. Their offense is playing well, the defense. Then they got the Lions right after that. So yeah, this stretch from week 7 to week 11 is tough. Then they got the Lions at home. Two high-powered offenses going at it. That's another game they could lose. So I think they'll split between the Jets and the Lions. They'll win one and they'll lose one. Then against the Cowboys, I like the Texans. I think they're the better team here. I mean, the Cowboys are at home, although this game is both teams playing Texas, but I think I'd lean towards the Texans here. Then against the Titans, I think the Texans should win the Week 12 matchup. Said they would split with the Jags. The Dolphins game is interesting. And again, two high-powered offenses going at it. I think with the Texans being at home, I like them, so I'll give them the win there. Against the Chiefs in Arrowhead, get to see C.J.Stroud against Patrick Mahomes for the first time. I'm going to say that's a loss. And then against the Ravens, they got the Ravens at home this time. So you know what? I'm gonna say the Texans actually drop that one as well, and then they take on the Titans again, and I'm gonna say they win that one. So I had them losing against the Chiefs, the Ravens, splitting with the Jags, splitting with the Colts, and then losing one of the Lions or the Jets game from week 9 and between week 9 and week 10. So it's 12-5. I think that's doable. And again, it might not be those exact losses. It might be in other games. But yeah, I think 12-5 is fair. That's a 2-game improvement from last season. I think that's fair. Like I said, I mean, it could be in different games. They could lose to the Cowboys. They could win against both the Jets and the Lions. They could sweep the Colts and lose to the Packers. I mean, but 12-5, I think that's doable for them. I think in year 2 they're going to be even better. You got Stephon Diggs now there. The defense hopefully is better with some of the moves they made there. So yeah, I think that's fair. So we'll see if they live up to it. Again, the expectations are higher, but I feel like with the coach and the quarterback, I feel like those high expectations, I don't think it's going to faze them. I think they're going to be ready for it. But like I say, only time will tell. There are some games that I'm really looking forward to on the schedule, though. When they take on the Chiefs, the Ravens, they take on the Bills as well. Taking on Jordan Love and C.J.Stroud, their playoff debuts, they basically had like the same stats, although like the passing yards were like slightly different. Like one of them had like 274, the other had 272, whatever it was. But their playoff debuts were nearly identical. And then you also have, so that's a game I'm looking forward to. Then you also have, against the Jets with Aaron Rodgers. I think that's a Thursday night game, so looking forward to that. And then you got the Lions as well, two high-powered offenses. The Dolphins game is, too. That's an exciting game. I feel like, Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle, that offense led by Tua, that could be a good game. So, and then you got the games in their own division. I kind of disrespected the Titans because I said that the Texans would split with the Jags and the Colts, but I had them sweeping the Titans. But, those games could be fun as well. Then the Week 2 matchup. Yeah, I basically said every single game on the schedule. The only game is, I think really the only game that I didn't say was, or the only two games, probably the Patriots when they play the Patriots in Foxborough, and then, the Vikings. But, you got Stephon Diggs going back to Minnesota. So, and I think that's the first time since he was traded from Minnesota to Buffalo. So he'll be going back there for the first time. And, so, there's a lot of intriguing matchups on the Texans schedule. So, I said 12-5. Let me know what you guys think. How many games do you think the Texans will win in 2024? So, before we go to break, just want to remind you guys once again to tip or donate and get your comments recognized. Make sure to go to the following link. That is GSMCPodcast.net. Again, that really helps the show, makes the show more interactive between myself, the host, and you guys, the viewers. Again, that is GSMCPodcast.net. And as always, it is displayed on the ticker at the bottom of the show segment down below. So when we come back from our second break of the show, we will discuss some comments made by Cam Newton on who is the real face of the NFL, whether either it's Lamar Jackson or is it Patrick Mahomes. Well, based off of what he said. We'll talk about what he said, and I'll give you my thoughts on it when we come back from our second break of the show. So stick around, and we'll be right back here on the GSMC Football Podcast.